Hello. The following video is simply a collection of my thoughts and ideas regarding tactical gaming. I was inspired to make this video after seeing Karmakut's trailer for his upcoming tactical shooter, Bellum. I have been following Karmakut on YouTube for a few years now and really appreciate his contribution to the tactical gaming community, specifically with his dynamic direction mod for Squad. I have the strong impression he understands the aspects that make tactical gaming so great. That is why I'm so excited he announced Bellum and cannot wait to hear more about it. I'm pretty confident Bellum will be an innovative title that will inject new life into the space. Now, I am not a programmer, just a fan of tactical games. I just hope to share ideas and create conversations with this video. Some of these ideas can seem rather small, but I believe that with tactical games, small details can significantly enhance immersion and increase the requirement for teamwork. Even though I am very passionate on some of these ideas, please don't take anything too seriously. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. Radio communication is a major element in warfare, yet many games on the market treat it as a built-in TeamSpeak. To make an immersive milsim video game, I believe there should be a stronger reliance on proximity communication, leaving the radio to be used only when necessary. In furtherance of this goal, I believe tactical games should include a push-to-talk animation when the radio keybind is pressed. The animation would involve the lowering of the player's weapon into a low-ready stance. Thus, a player cannot point and shoot while talking on the radio. This would increase realism, as a soldier typically has to lower his rifle when speaking on radio comms. This would also force a player to think more strategically before they speak over the radio. This is already a feature in 6 Days in Fallujah, and I wish it was implemented in more games. My second idea is to offer players the option to set proximity voice chat to open mic instead of requiring a keybind. This allows for more natural communication and frees up a valuable mouse button which can be reassigned for other actions. In first-person shooters, especially in close quarters combat, quick communication is critical. I believe this is why Discord channels are popular amongst tactical gaming communities, because open mic is an available setting. Beyond just having faster communication, there's also an ergonomic benefit for players, as they have fewer keybinds to press during intense actions, such as room clearing. For realism and practical reasons, open mic wouldn't be an option for radio communications, as real radios typically require a button press. While open mic might seem like it would lead to an increase in mic spamming, this already is a problem that occurs infrequently in games like Squad, which requires a button press for proximity voice chat. However, as a precautionary measure, open mic for proximity chat could be disabled by default. In modern militaries, not every soldier is issued a radio. Typically, they are reserved for specific personnel such as squad leaders. Limiting radios to only squad leaders or team leaders would encourage players to stick together and relay information up the chain of command, while also reducing unnecessary radio chatter. Although this could complicate respawning and regrouping, it would add a layer of realism and force better coordination within the team. Many soldiers and armies around the world still use speakers for their radios instead of headsets. Thus, if a player doesn't have a headset for his radio, then the player's radio should emit sound on the speaker that is audible to all players on proximity voice. This can be a short radius, but it will add in a layer of immersion and showcase a variety of radio communication equipment available to different forces. Have ambient sounds picked up over radio when the radio keybind is pressed. For example, gunfire and artillery could be heard in the background while a player is speaking over the radio. This adds immersion, but of course must be balanced to not be too overbearing. Implement a system where players can hear nearby enemy voices. My concept for this system wouldn't be that players can hear the actual enemy proximity voice chat, like in the global escalation mod for Squad. Rather, players would hear pre-recorded voice lines that are in the enemy faction's native language. So anytime a player presses the voice chat keybind, they would emit a voice line that is mute to them and their team, but audible to the enemy. This keeps immersion, as players on different country factions wouldn't be able to understand a foreign enemy dialogue, while also adding strategic value to silence. To enhance depth, interpreters or coalition forces could understand the opposing team's language, allowing them to hear the actual enemy voices instead of pre-recorded lines. Although tactical games generally feature fewer HUD elements compared to mainstream FPS titles, I'm surprised by how many HUD features are still prevalent in the genre. In my view, the ultimate goal for tactical games should be a zero HUD experience. A friendly player indicator, for example, is unnecessary. Players should depend on teamwork, and if friendly fire happens, it should be seen as a natural consequence of poor communication. Minimaps also undermine the value of player coordination and encourage lone wolf behavior. In games like Squad, the minimap is such a powerful tool that experienced players spend much of the game staring at it, which feels arcadey and immersion breaking. For features like stance or ammo indicators, these HUD elements should at least be toggleable with a keybind to maintain flexibility without cluttering the screen. It seems like Karmakut already appreciates diegetic UI, which means that UI elements are part of the game's world instead of merely existing on the player's screen. The Bellum trailer, for instance, showcased an ATAC map and a wrist-mounted GPS compass. I hope Bellum continues down this path and avoids adding unnecessary HUD elements that detract from the tactical gaming experience. I believe Milsim games are at their best when it's real players fighting real players, so I'm glad to hear that Bellum will focus on PvP. While AI can be fun, it just doesn't compare to battling a real, unpredictable human enemy. However, organizing multiplayer matches can be frustrating. I think it's important to consider ways to streamline this team organization process before the match even begins. In my opinion, there should be no custom or private squads, and each squad should have a standardized, uniform name and role. For example, Squad 1 should always be the platoon HQ, Squads 2, 3, and 4 should always be the rifle squads, and Squad 5 should always be the weapon squad. This makes communication easier, and by standardizing it for each round, it will reduce complications with teamwork, especially over radio. A pre-match strategic briefing would also be useful, giving squad leaders time to communicate and plan together. Regular players could listen in and watch as squad leaders discuss strategies and place map markers, but they shouldn't be able to speak and interrupt until the main briefing is over. Additionally, incorporating an endorsement system like the one in Overwatch could help foster a positive community. After each match, players could endorse each other for qualities like good leader, sportsmanship, or good teammate. This could encourage teamwork and good behavior while giving players recognition for their in-game conduct. Respawning is a tricky mechanic to implement in a tactical video game. One-life game modes might seem like the obvious solution to avoid the challenges that come with respawning, but I believe there could be a way to integrate it while maintaining unit cohesion and immersion. Any respawn system should provide a mechanic that prevents players from trickling back into a fight. Dying should force players to take a moment to regroup, rally around the team leader, and then push out as a coordinated unit. Although I don't have a concrete solution, one idea I have is to let squad leaders control when and where players respawn. This would help keep squads together and reduce the need for micromanaging individual players. To use squad as a reference, there's nothing more frustrating than having squad mates spawn at random locations. Having a mechanic to reduce this possibility would be greatly appreciated. Arma 3's ACE medical system is extremely detailed, but it implements an awful pop-up menu screen which kills immersion. In Squad, the medical system is extremely simple. However, the UI is much less intrusive as there is only a single icon within the player's body to indicate if they are bleeding or incapacitated. I think a truly immersive medical system is one that combines these two approaches. My concept for a new medical system involves the following. When a player is down, a teammate or medic can approach the body, and depending on the injury, certain icons will appear within the player similar to Squad. If the player has multiple injuries, then multiple icons will appear. The medic will then have to select the appropriate tool for the injury by selecting and holding the left mouse button to apply it. After successfully applying the tool, the injury icon will dissipate. I created the following chart to showcase potential injuries, the icons that would represent them, and the tools required for treatment. There are many ways to expand on this system. For example, a player could have multiple instances of the same injury, like up to 4 limb hemorrhages, each requiring a tourniquet. Another mechanic could allow trauma shears to be used at any time to speed up all subsequent healing actions on the injured soldier. Additionally, 2 medics could work together on the same patient, coordinating which wounds each one is treating. To illustrate how this medical system could work, let's say a player gets hit by an enemy grenade and is incapacitated. The medic goes to the downed player and sees the following icons: limb hemorrhage, blocked airway, low blood. Knowing time is of the essence with the amount of injuries a player has, the medic pulls out his trauma shears so he can perform actions faster. After the animation is complete, he takes out a tourniquet to stop the limb hemorrhage. After the tourniquet is applied, the medic takes out an NPA device to clear the blocked airway. At this point, a second medic arrives, communicates with the first medic, and starts setting up an IV for saline. This system is simple when compared to mods for Arma 3, but I believe it is detailed enough and adds strategy when it comes to treating wounds. Ideally, in a perfect medical system, there would be no need for wound icons, as each injury could be represented by some other visual or audio indicator. Limb hemorrhage could be displayed with blood spreading from the player's leg. A blocked airway could be indicated by some obstructed breathing sound, but I'm just not sure if a system like this is technically feasible, and thus I think having icons within the player's body is the best alternative. It would be great to see an animation when using an LPVO. I haven't seen this done before in any video game, so it would just be cool to see. It would also be great to see the zoom actually be variable, instead of just jumping from 1x to 5x. The Bellum website mentions crew-served weapons, which would be an awesome addition to a tactical video game. It would be great to see the assistant gunner not only carrying extra ammo and barrels for the machine gun, but also a tripod mount. I haven't seen this before in other games, but I think it would add a whole new level of immersion. The tripod would offer a more stable firing position when compared to using a bipod, but would require teamwork to utilize. Deploying the tripod could function similarly to placing an ammo bag in squad. After taking out the tripod, a green outline would appear, indicating where it will be placed. Once set up, the machine gunner would approach the tripod and secure the gun in position. If needed, the tripod could also be picked up and relocated. Karmakut has already made an excellent video covering the Kerbal Shade modification for night vision, so I won't dive too deeply into it here. However, one standout feature is that it provides players with night vision peripheral visibility, allowing them to see natural ambient light as they realistically would. It would be great to see this immersive feature in future games. Walking through bushes and dense vegetation should slow down player movement. It's a simple idea, but I think it's very impactful. A few tactical games include a low ready stance, but using it can often feel awkward. In Ground Branch, for example, changing one's weapon stance is binded to the scroll wheel. In my opinion, this setup makes the transition between low ready and point shooting feel extremely uncomfortable and slow. In contrast, Ready or Not offers more flexibility by allowing players to assign the low ready position to any keybind, along with the ability to choose between a press and hold or toggle option. I found it very smooth to bind this action to a side mouse button in combination with a press and hold option. This setup made it effortless to release from the low ready position and instantly switch back to point shooting. I think this customization makes the low ready stance feel much more natural and responsive. Additionally, the low ready position can feel a bit LARPy if it's only used to prevent weapon flagging. It could offer a more tactical value if paired with mechanics like arm stamina, or better yet, a slight speed boost as it is the case in Ready or Not. Thus, the low ready position provides practical benefits beyond just adding immersive realism. Many tactical games today are trying to strike a balance between realism and arcade-style gameplay. However, gamer expectations are shifting, and developers no longer need to cater solely to the arcade crowd. The old assumptions that players need hit markers, a crosshair, or quick respawn for instant action have been proven false. Escape from Tarkov is a perfect example of this shift. It defied conventional wisdom by removing typical features like friendly player indicators, a HUD compass, and a minimap, yet it is still widely popular. This shows that games can be both highly immersive and realistic while still being engaging and fun. Furthermore, the best tactical games are those that reward players for using real-world tactics to succeed. Replicating real-world strategies in a game shouldn't feel like virtual LARPing just for the sake of authenticity. It should provide genuine tactical advantage in the game. I think this makes the gameplay more satisfying and adds depth to the overall gameplay experience. I look forward to seeing more from Bellum and to any other tactical gaming projects that are trying to innovate in the space. I hope you enjoyed listening to my thoughts, and I would love to hear more from the community.